mysteries and welcome back to my channel. Today's video I'm going to be chatting about books I think you should read if you are into the Conjuring universe like I am. I'm going to preface this though. Love the movies, don't like the Warrens. So I picked out I think 5 books that you guys I think fits the kind of theme for the Conjuring universes and whatnot. But if you like seeing these kinds of videos from me, let me know in the comments down below. If you want to see more from me, hit like and subscribe. I try to upload at least once a week. But without further ado, let's get in the video. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of the books, so things I kept in mind while looking for books. One, there has to be like a haunted house. It's a big one. I try to find haunted houses in all of these books or a haunted building of some sort. The other one is that they have to include some kind of possession, whether or not it's a successful possession or a failed possession. Has to be a possession in there somewhere. And then it has to be either a demon or a ghost that's kind of haunting and destroying lives. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about is Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. This is an adult gothic novel following Alejandra, who seems to have kind of lost herself in the minutiae of her day-to-day. She knows she's a wife, she's a daughter, she is a mother to her children, but she doesn't know who Alejandra is. So while grappling with her very obvious depression and her life crisis that she's trying to figure out and work through, she is starting to see flashes of a woman in white in the back of her mind, either in her dreams, randomly in her vision, in the mirror, just this random woman in white around her telling her to commit terrible acts to her children. With the help of her therapist, who is also a curandera, who is also like in tune with indigenous Mexican practices of like the mind and the body and all that stuff, they try to figure out who this woman is living in the corners of her mind, to try and stop her from fully taking over Alejandra and hurting her family. If you guys aren't picking up on this, it is a retelling or at least a spin on the La Llorona story that kind of takes over most of, I want to say South America, specifically Mexico. I chose this because there's a literal possession that occurs. I'm not going to get too much into it, but we do see instances of La Llorona throughout the decades as we're listening to or reading through Alejandra's point of view. And we're seeing how much this like demon, which you learn later it is in fact a demon, has gone through and actively harmed these women and actively harmed their ability to protect and care for their families. This was, I'm going to warn all y'all though, a slower story. I typically am okay with a slower story. I can handle it. One of my favorite genres to read tends to be slower in nature. Even my other favorite genres I tend to be slower in nature. But this was extra slow to the point where my eyes started glazing over a little bit. I do think once it gets to the end, it picks up quite a lot. And there are a lot of moments where I was just downright disgusted. I don't have the full list of trigger warnings, but I will leave the trigger warnings in the little trigger warning link in the description for you guys to check out, because the ending bit of it was kind of a lot, even for me. There's a demon in this one that really causes chaos in here. Attempted possession works out. The next one's a quartet of books, but I'm kind of focusing more on the first half rather than the second half. And that is The Diviners by Linda Bray. This is a YA paranormal horror following Evie O'Neill, who has been kicked out of her town of Zenith, Ohio for a big scandal she has caused. However, the scandal is caused because she has a power where she can pick up objects and read the past events that happened while this person was wearing this object, and she did it on a guy and everyone got mad. So she has been booted off to New York to live with her Uncle Will in his little mysterious museum of wonders. During this time, there are a string of murders going on that no one can seem to really pinpoint. It seems almost inhuman in nature, very unnatural, but Evie and her uncle and her friends have to figure out what's going on, and they end up using Evie's powers to do so. Like I said, focusing on the first and second book, because those two definitely lean more into the paranormal aspects of the goal. Here I feel like the third and fourth books kind of got a little too big for its britches. But we have ghosts, specifically one who is a tortured soul who hasn't really moved on and is kind of actively hurting people but not trying her hardest. And the one in the book is a soul that was brought back from the dead who is a killer. I feel like it fits specifically with the second Conjuring movie just because there is actually a spirit that is being possessed and taken over and does not mean to do actual harm, but is harming people because of their circumstances. And then there's the more scary person who's actively killing people. It amps up a lot in the end, which I feel like is a characteristic of most horror novels or horror adjacent novels such as thrillers and stuff and gothic novels. But I highly recommend the Quartet if you haven't read it yet. I think it kind of suits like the investigative aspect as well of Ed and Lorraine like trying to figure out what's going on, trying to pinpoint all the things and put puzzle pieces together. The next one is another YA, it's a gothic novel, and that is A Place for Vanishing by Anne Frysett. I have a full-length review of this book if you want to take a look at it. This is a YA novel following Libby, whose family has moved back into her mother's family home after a tragic incident involving Libby's mental health. While they're trying to kind of grapple with this new diagnosis that Libby has and trying to get adjusted to this new life, they are starting to notice she and her sister are starting to notice some changes in her mother. They're not entirely sure why her mother has never talked about her family, why she seems to have gaps in her memory, and why she does not want to come back to this home. But here they are, and her mother starts to act strangely, stranger and stranger as the day goes on, and it ends up there's a secret in the house that kind of ties everything together and becomes super creepy and crawly. Cornerstone of most of the Warrens cases in the Conjuring universe. Again, a lot more of the investigative process in there as well, because we do see them try to figure out what happened in this home, why there are so many disappearances that are occurring in this home, and where everything is. And then as things continue, the characters start acting more strangely. You see kind of that like cornerstone like puzzle pieces that Ed tends to give people, which is like infestation, something, and then possession. And you can definitely do see it in here. We see like the threads of like the ghosts coming around, and then you see the threads of them slowly losing their ability to think and figure things out, and then all of a sudden it's a full-blown infestation and you're being chased around by people who are no longer here but are still capable of causing bodily harm to you. The next one is A Lullaby for Witches by Hester Fox. So this follows a dual timeline, one in the modern day period. Augusta, who was kind of like a little bit downtrodden. She thinks she just broke up with her boyfriend. She just left her job and she's now starting anew, studying everything in the Harlow house. The Harlow house is the next line of thread here, which is a very well-off merchant family, and the daughter, who has been seemingly erased from time, is her next big like thing to discover and figure out. However, the more that she learns about her, the more that something just does not seem right in the Harlow home, and something might just actually be coming for her. But again, haunted house, you have a possession, you have a ghost who has not moved on and wants to enact revenge and commit acts of violence on people who have harmed her, or / bring herself back into the world so she can actually live the life she wanted to live, but in a potentially more safer manner, considering she's not in New England, Massachusetts, and is not being denounced as a witch, and is not being, you know, brutally killed. Typically, I am on the side of the people trying to banish the spirit, because spirit's doing bad things, never a good thing. You know, spirit gotta move on, spirit got a new life to figure out. However, after I read or / listen to this book, I am on the spirit side. I am on her side and her thought process of enacting revenge and hurting people all around her. Completely on her side. Anyone who says otherwise is completely wrong. But yes, again, possession, haunted house, unseeming people who don't really believe in this stuff, but somehow uncover this and kind of give her spirit some more power to come back and wreak havoc. And the last book is Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. This is an adult gothic novel, also full-length, not review in my description. But this follows Beatriz at the tail end of the Mexican War for Independence. Her father was killed, which left her and her mother with absolutely nothing. So they move back to her mother's home, where they are treated very much less than because of who her mother married. So in an act of like kind of defiance and then also kind of desperation, she marries this widow, Rodolfo, and is whisked away to his mansion. Now, Rodolfo is a widow. His wife passed away under mysterious circumstances, and as she stays in this town, in this home, she's realizing that the threads and the essence of the previous wife is still somehow sewed into the very fabric of this home, and still very much a thing that is talked about in the town. Another haunted house, another malevolent, angry spirit who just wants to cause harm. It's definitely a classic haunted house. You don't think anything's wrong with it. It's big, it's grand, it's empty. And then the more you traverse in the house, and the more you maybe like move things around, or like start to do things start being amiss. You start hearing voices, footsteps, giggles in places you don't want to, and then eventually, next thing you know, the events escalate and escalate and escalate until a full-blown attack is happening and you are getting injured by a a non-alive person. But that is it for my suggestions on books you should read if you like the Conjuring universe. If you have any more of those recommendations, or any books you want, if you have any recommendations for me that you think I would like, that's based, that you would think you would enjoy based on the Conjuring universe, let me know in the comments down below. If you have any other suggestions for me to read, let me know as well. And until next time, stay safe and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.